Welcome back to channel. Hi, I am Isaac. Tonight, we begin where our previous documentary concluded, building upon the findings of our earlier investigative research. Our today topic is Karachi, engine of the nation, city on the edge. This is not a speech. This is not a slogan. And this is not a partisan defense of any political party. This is an investigation into a city that generates the wealth of a nation, yet struggles to secure its own survival. Karachi, a metropolis of more than 20 million people, a port city that connects Pakistan to the global economy, a financial hub that contributes the majority share to the national exchequer, an industrial backbone that fuels exports, manufacturing, logistics, banking, and trade. And yet, today, we are asking a question that should never have to be asked. Why does the country's economic engine look structurally neglected? Why does a city that funds the system appear excluded from controlling it? Tonight, we examine the claims, the data, the historical context, the political decisions, and the governance model that shaped modern Karachi, and we ask whether the crisis is accidental or structural. Let's begin with contribution. Karachi hosts the country's two major seaports, Karachi Port Trust and Port Qasim Authority. These gateways handle the majority of Pakistan's maritime trade. Billions of dollars in imports and exports move through these waters every year. The city houses large-scale industrial zones, site Karachi, Landi, Port Qasim's industrial corridor, producing textiles, pharmaceuticals, steel, chemicals, consumer goods, and processed food exports. Business leaders consistently claim that Karachi contributes over half of the country's export earnings and a dominant share of federal tax revenue through customs, income tax, sales tax, and corporate tax. Even if exact percentages fluctuate year to year, one fact remains uncontested. Without Karachi's ports and industrial output, Pakistan's external trade would face immediate paralysis. But contribution alone does not guarantee governance power. To understand the tension, we must revisit history. In 1947, Karachi was declared the federal capital by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. It was not merely a provincial city, it was the center of a newly formed state. Migration patterns shifted rapidly. Demographics changed dramatically within years. In 1970, under the legal framework order issued by Yahya Khan, Karachi was formally merged into Sindh province. The federal capital had already moved to Islamabad, but the administrative restructuring altered Karachi's political trajectory permanently. Since then, governance has remained layered and complex. Federal institutions control ports, customs, and key economic levers. Provincial authorities control policing, land, local administration, and much of development spending. Local government structures exist, but their powers are frequently debated, amended, suspended, or diluted. The result? Overlapping authority, diffuse accountability, and frequent blame shifting. When a fire breaks out in a commercial building, who is responsible for enforcement? When water shortages intensify, who failed planning provincial irrigation, local utilities, or federal infrastructure? When sewage flows untreated into the sea, which department owns the solution? Karachi once stood as a symbol of possibility. People from across Pakistan came here. People from abroad came here. Students from Iran, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, they studied at Karachi University. Entire neighborhoods housed foreign residents. This city was open, thriving, global. It was not just a port. It was a promise. Even during the days of United Pakistan, Karachi was the beating commercial center. When Karachi moved, Pakistan moved. Look at philanthropy. The largest welfare networks in the country were born here. Eddy Foundation, Ceylani Welfare International Trust, Chipa Welfare Association. When disaster strikes, floods, earthquakes, crises abroad, it is Karachi that responds first. This city does not wait for permission to help. Its people give. They mobilize. They act. So the question becomes even sharper. If citizens can organize at scale, why can't the state? Today, Karachi contributes roughly 2/3 of national tax revenue and more than half of exports. Let that sink in. And exhausted, infrastructure starved, water deprived, Traffic-choked Karachi still fuels the national economy. Imagine what a functional Karachi could do. If a patient in the ICU is generating 67% of the taxes, what would a healthy patient achieve? The tragedy is not decline. The tragedy is wasted potential. Walk through site today and compare it to decades past. There was a time when thousands poured out of factories at closing time, a sea of workers. 3 railway stations operated inside that industrial zone. Factories stretched across 30 and 40 acres. Today, many of those same industrial giants have been reduced to fragmented units, warehouses, or scrap. Once, Pakistan produced specialized steel technology that even advanced nations respected. Those plants were dismantled and sold piece by piece. Foreign directors who helped build them wept watching them collapse. That is not just deindustrialization. That is economic erosion. Why did this happen? Because infrastructure did not keep pace with growth. Because planning did not keep pace with migration. Because governance did not keep pace with expansion. Karachi grew from a small coastal settlement into a megacity of over 25 million. But where is the proportional increase in water supply? In sewage treatment? In electricity generation? In mass transit? Growth without planning is not development. It is chaos. There is talk of master plans. Yes, plans were drafted. Yes, international consultants were hired. Yes, documents were approved. But implementation is the graveyard of good intentions. A master plan that is not enforced is a decorative file. Compare that with cities that planned decades ahead. Take Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, 8 lanes built when traffic did not demand it, high-rise zoning aligned with utilities, integrated sewage and drainage, uninterrupted power supply. Planning preceded population density. In Karachi, density preceded infrastructure. Walk through site today and compare it to decades past. There was a time when thousands poured out of factories at closing time, a sea of workers. 3 railway stations operated inside that industrial zone. Factories stretched across 30 and 40 acres. Today, many of those same industrial giants have been reduced to fragmented units, warehouses, or scrap. Once, Pakistan produced specialized steel technology that even advanced nations respected. Those plants were dismantled and sold piece by piece. Foreign directors who helped build them wept watching them collapse. That is not just deindustrialization. That is economic erosion. Why did this happen? Because infrastructure did not keep pace with growth. Because planning did not keep pace with migration. Because governance did not keep pace with expansion. Karachi grew from a small coastal settlement into a megacity of over 25 million. But where is the proportional increase in water supply? In sewage treatment? In electricity generation? In mass transit? Growth without planning is not development. It is chaos. There is talk of master plans. Yes, plans were drafted. Yes, international consultants were hired. Yes, documents were approved. But implementation is the graveyard of good intentions. A master plan that is not enforced is a decorative file. Compare that with cities that planned decades ahead. Take Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, 8 lanes built when traffic did not demand it, high-rise zoning aligned with utilities, integrated sewage and drainage, uninterrupted power supply. Planning preceded population density. In Karachi, density preceded infrastructure. The structural problem is fragmentation. Karachi is divided into multiple administrative and political segments. Responsibilities overlap. Accountability dissolves. When everyone is responsible, no one is responsible. When water fails, blame shifts. When roads crumble, fingers point elsewhere. When sewage floods neighborhoods, press conferences multiply, but solutions do not. Cities are built on economic foundations. Karachi rose historically because it was commercially indispensable. It became a jewel because trade, industry, and port activity converged here. But economics requires stability. It requires predictable governance. It requires long-term vision, 2030, 2040, 2050, not election cycle improvisation. Without a coherent vision, short-term patchwork becomes policy. Let's be direct. Citizens are tired. Industrialists are frustrated. Taxpayers feel exploited. The city that funds the Federation often feels abandoned by it. And this growing resentment is dangerous. Not because it threatens unity, but because it reflects disillusionment. When people believe their contributions are not matched by services, trust erodes. And without trust, governance collapses. Karachi's problems are not mysterious. They're engineering problems. Water supply, wastewater treatment, drainage systems, solid waste management, mass transit corridors, power distribution upgrades. These are solvable. Engineers solve complex infrastructure challenges every day around the world. But engineers need mandates. They need budgets. They need institutional continuity. Technical problems cannot be fixed with political slogans. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a fundamental truth. Karachi does not lack resilience. It lacks alignment. It does not lack revenue, it lacks reinvestment. It does not lack talent. It lacks coordinated leadership. The future of Pakistan is tied directly to the future of this city. If Karachi stabilizes, national economic stability follows. If Karachi declines further, the ripple effects will be national. Enough is not a slogan. It is a warning that patience is thinning, a warning that cosmetic reforms will no longer satisfy, a warning that without structural change, unified authority, enforced planning, infrastructure investment, economic revitalization, the cost of inaction will multiply. The choice is stark. Continue managing decline through fragmented control and political compromise. Or restructure governance, empower a single accountable city administration, enforce the master plan, secure utilities, revive industry, and restore confidence. Karachi has carried the nation for decades. The question now is whether the nation and its leadership is prepared to carry Karachi back to strength. As we close tonight's investigation, remember this. The question is no longer what went wrong. The question is who will make it right. Real change does not begin in corridors of power. It begins with awareness. It begins with informed citizens. It begins with you. If this report added value to your understanding, if it challenged your thinking, or if it gave voice to issues that deserve attention, then don't let the conversation stop here. Like this video. Share it with those who need to see it. And subscribe to this channel so you never miss an investigation that matters. Your support helps us continue asking the difficult questions professionally, responsibly, and without fear. Thank you for watching. Stay aware. Stay informed. And to all our Muslim viewers around the world, Ramadan Mubarak. May this blessed month bring reflection, strength, and justice to every home. Until next time.